this is Chase Utley, and this is the Phillies Show.
Ruben Amaro Jr., Jim Salisbury, Todd Zalecki. It's the Phillies Show. It is Friday, February 13th, 2026, but we are doing a little bit of an emergency pod on Thursday night, posting on Friday morning because the Phillies have finally officially parted ways with Nick Castellanos. They announced on Thursday afternoon that he has been released. A relationship that was unsalvageable finally comes to an end. What's your guys' immediate reaction to this? We all knew it was coming. We knew it was coming as soon as the season ended. We knew it was coming. But now it's finally happened.
Yeah, a good word on your part, unsalvageable. That to the point where they had to eat $20 million and move on. There were no takers in the trade market. Not surprised there because, when a team is so public about wanting to move a guy, you say, I'll just wait till they release him. But when a team is so public about moving a guy, you say, well, do I really want this guy? I still think he can swing the bat, possibly help someone, but this was an unavoidable circumstance that had been building all of 2025. And obviously reached ahead in Miami when Rob Thompson, one of the most easygoing managers in the history of baseball, was forced to react and bench a guy, thus ending his long consecutive game streak. Just because the actions in the dugout that night were so egregious that he had to move in that direction. And things remained tense for the rest of the season. Dave Dombrowski, right after the season, indicated that a change of scenery was coming. He was unable to facilitate that via trade. So the end of an era.
Yeah, again, not surprised. I mean, it was very obvious that Nick Castellanos and the Phillies front office and the staff were no longer a fit. And I guess there was enough tension and enough, quote unquote, animosity, difference of opinion, almost a little bit like a divorce, where you just don't see eye to eye and you don't agree with some of the things that were going on, and the relationship basically deteriorated to the point where they had to release him. Unfortunately, he wasn't as productive as they would have liked as a player over the last couple of years. Otherwise, he probably would have had some value on the market. Not a whole lot of right-handed bats out there to be had, but he hasn't been a super productive player as of late. He was given every chance to play pretty much every single day for a long, long time. And, it's time to part ways, and you got to give John Middleton and Dave Dombrowski a lot of credit in that they're respecting, I think, probably the wishes of the staff, meaning the coaches and the manager. And they're also respecting, sort of eating the money, which is a significant amount of money, for the betterment of the collective. Right. And I think they're moving forward without him in a way that I think that the Phillies feel is positive.
And aren't they making the statement, as almost any business would, that gross insubordination cannot be tolerated?
Absolutely. I mean, there was some real egregious stuff that went on. I know that Nick Castellanos did refer to some of the stuff on Instagram, but I don't think the entire picture was painted there. There was more to be said. There was a lot of disrespect that was created from Nick Castellanos to others, and I think they finally said that's enough.
So I want to mention real quick, if you're watching because on YouTube, please subscribe. We're past 10,000 recently. We're trying to get to 15, so we appreciate your support. And as always, go to the phillyshowshop.com right there. But so it's like Nick had these, remember when he signed, it was a 5-year, $100 million contract of March of 2022. He gave this very interesting press conference. I don't have a college degree. I hit baseballs for a living. And it was like, oh man, this guy's going to have an edge. And he had such wild ups and downs, these incredible highs and these incredible lows. when he was bad, and he admitted he was bad. But when he got hot, man, he could carry a team. I remember in the 2023 postseason, he had all those, that NLDS, and I think he homered in his first at bat in the 2023 NLCS against the Diamondbacks. I'm like, oh my God, this dude can carry the Phillies to the World Series. And then he was like 0 for 23 the rest of the NLCS. So he had these crazy ups and downs, got cheered a lot, got booed a lot. And then, when he did struggle, I remember Rob dropped him to as low as 8th in the lineup at one point. I think that might have been in 2023. And he was not happy about it. He wasn't happy last year. I think when he kind of rebounded, finished the season strong in 2024. And I think he started last season hitting 7th in the lineup. So there were some frustrations there on Nick's part in terms of, the leash he was given or whatever, right or wrong, there was some frustration there, and he expressed it at times. As you guys know, as everybody knows, he was never afraid to voice his opinion. He was very blunt, very open. He could be a difficult interview at times. He could be a fun interview at times, but he could be very, very harsh in terms of his opinions. And I think that all kind of culminated into what happened in Miami in June.
Right.
It's
okay to be blunt and opinionated in a difficult interview, sometimes an entertaining interview. So it's okay to be quirky. It's not okay when your manager makes a decision to remove you to try to help win a ball game and replace you with a better defender. It's not okay to go off on the manager in the dugout and the coaches in the dugout and then crack a beer that symbolically was, I don't know. What do you think, Ruben?
You gave him one of these.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've never heard of a player bringing a beer into the dugout. I've heard of players, they get pulled out of a game, a reliever gets out of a game, a starter gets out of a game. I've heard of that before, but never heard of a player bringing a beer into the dugout.
I have no problem with not agreeing with the manager or authority. I do have a problem with dealing with it in an unprofessional way, and it was pretty clear that that's what happened. And love or dislike Castellanos, he had an edge about how he played, and he had some really highs, big moments for the Phillies at times. But I think at the end of the day, it's about the whole body of work. And I guess the feeling was, if you're not going to be super productive and you're not going to be a positive in the dugout in the clubhouse, and you're going to be a negative, then you sort of have to be removed. And that's the decision they made.
And it's okay to question the manager. It's okay to stand up to the manager. It's okay to offer your opinion. It's okay to bang heads, but there's a way to do it. It's done, at 1 p.m. behind a closed door, or midnight after a game behind a closed door. We've all walked through clubhouses and heard shouting, but it's behind closed doors done the right way. So his objections to being taken out of the game that night were just part of the decision on the Phillies' part, but it wasn't handled correctly.
And it was the right decision. I mean,
totally.
I don't agree with every single move that Rob Thompson makes. I do think he's an excellent manager. I like the man. I like the way he goes about it. That particular decision was the right decision. He put a better defender in on a game that he needed to win. And frankly, I was surprised he hadn't done it before.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, Ruben, because I wrote about that a little bit on Thursday, that, we had been asking Rob for a long time. I mean, I don't know how far back, but hey, in a close game, late in the game, would you take Nick out for defensive purposes? And then, I always go back, and we've talked about this before. Who was in left field when the Phillies got the final out in the 2008 World Series? It wasn't Pat Burrell. It was Eric Bruntlett. Eric Bruntlett, I think, finished almost every game in the postseason in left field because he was a better defender in left than Pat Burrell was. And Pat never complained. I'm going to guess he didn't like it, but he also didn't hate it and make a big stink.
No, Pat knew it was best for the team.
Right.
Same thing happened with Greg Luzinski over the years.
Jerry Martin.
I mean, I just feel like, listen, you have to make moves that aren't necessarily popular, but moves that are going to help, win the baseball game. And that was one of them.
Yeah. And, you look at Nick's, that, and then after what came out of that afterwards, I remember Nick had asked for the Phillies to supply him all of his defensive metrics and whatnot. But yeah, to me, it was an obvious decision. It was like, hey, why hadn't this happened earlier?
I will say this, Nick worked very hard on his defense. I mean, he made himself very adequate, but it wasn't really about the issue of his effort. It was more about his overall ability to cover ground. He just didn't have the foot speed, much like Pat Burrell. Pat was a very good left fielder, I thought, with tracking the baseball and what have you. Good throwing arm, threw the ball well. Problem was that he just didn't have the overall speed necessary to cover enough ground to be a plus defender. And so that's sort of the same thing you had with Castellanos. And, you want to have somebody who can cover some ground, someone who has some range, and someone who's a better player out there when the game's on the line.
But I feel like this transaction, the performance was only part of it, small part of it, really. Just the relationship had soured. He was unhappy with his role. There was an incident. There was other comments he made that night in Arizona where he strongly insinuated the manager, who was a very good communicator, was not a very good communicator. I mean, that stuff just, kind of builds and becomes like a wave. And it would have just been too difficult to have a person with those grievances against the leader, against leadership, come back into your clubhouse.
And this is a GM supporting his manager in a lot of ways. And in my mind, it's the right thing to do.
What was it, Todd? Paint the scene a little bit down there today, if you could.
Well, I mean, you kind of knew it was coming down, of course, right? I mean, Philly's first full squad workout is Monday, and players are already starting to come in. It's like, he didn't have a locker. They'd taken down some of his pictures in the clubhouse. And so you knew it was imminent. And then all of a sudden we get a heads up Thursday afternoon, like, hey, they're going to release Nick in a few minutes. Dave Dombrowski's going to come and talk to you guys. And so we met Dave right outside the press box, and he talked for maybe 7-10 minutes, something like that. And, just kind of, he kept saying, we just needed to have a change of scenery. We needed to have a change of scenery. And, he said that they had tried to trade him. They had some interest, but when it came down to it, obviously they could not close the deal. And it was kind of asked, like, why did it take so long? But it was like, well, we thought we could make a trade here for Nick, trade him to somebody. And he pointed out, he's like, we weren't looking for a lot of money in return. We weren't looking for a lot of prospects in return. We were looking for minimal return in money, minimal return in prospects to try to trade him. And it didn't happen. I did ask him at one point, I said, was there any, because this is important, because and Dave did say this. He's like, this was more than just the Miami incident. He's like, everybody's making a big deal about the Miami incident. It wasn't just that. And it wasn't just that. I mean, go back. They tried to trade him now 3 consecutive off seasons, including this one. So they've been trying to trade him for a while. But I said, was there any attempt after the season to say, hey, is there any way that we can work this out? In other words, like, hey, if you open the season as a platoon player, we'd still love to have you. We still think you can be productive. Could you be a platoon player for us? And he basically said, we never had that conversation. So that to me said that, it was more than just one moment in time. It was just a culmination of things like, we're done. You're done. We're done. We're moving on. You're moving on. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to be very interested to see what kind of season he has. I think he's
in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, he was just what they needed. They needed a right-handed bat in the outfield. I mean, if you could subtract the periods of, the periods when he wasn't producing, if you get some more consistency, just what they're looking for. But I just think it was all based on where the relationship had gone. Do you think there's going to be, you think he lands somewhere? What do we think?
Well, I think he's got an opportunity to go somewhere. I think in a lot of ways, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of season he puts together. But sometimes you have to sort of be smacked in the head, and the mirror has to break for you. Mm-hmm. Realize that you really have been struggling, and I think this is probably a little bit of a wake up call that the team could not move the man. It's interesting. He had a 250 batting average for the season, 17 home runs, 72 RBIs. He only had a 294 on base percentage, which was probably the lowest on base percentage of any everyday player or close to it. That played pretty much every day. Someone with over 500 plate appearances. But I would not be surprised if it sort of lights a fire in him and he's a player for somebody. It's very, very possible that
he gets hot. He gets hot.
He makes some adjustments and does some things and puts him. I mean, he has ability. There's no question. The man was a first rounder. He's had a lot of success over the course of his career. He's 33. He's not 40. Mm-hmm. And so, he keeps himself in pretty good shape. I mean, I would actually be surprised if he didn't have some sort of productive season, because even though he's guaranteed the money, he's probably going to want to play after 2026. And I'm sure that he wants to show the rest of the world that he can.
Yeah. And it's funny because we all had people saying, why don't they just release him? They're not going to be able to trade him. I'm like, well, I think that they think that they can, somebody's going to see some potential there, even with the whole incident. I think most people in baseball probably had heard something about what had happened in Miami and how the relationship had soured and whatnot. But, I said this to everybody. I said, tell you what, if I was a GM on another team and I could get Nick for $2 million, pay the Phillies $2 million if there was other interest, and I needed a right-handed bat, I think he'll be on better behavior this year, in terms of all of this, because he's a free agent after this season. I think he's going to be motivated again, like you said, Ruben, because he's going to want another contract beyond this season. And I think Nick is the type of guy who's going to play with an edge, and he would love nothing more than have a big season in the National League,
right off the Phillies
shove it up the Phillies' butts. I think he would absolutely love that moment.
He would love to do that, based on how what I know of him and how he's reacted to other things. I think he would love to do that, and he may very well do that.
Yeah. Question, Ruben: how much does a general manager and his front office weigh the potential of some right-handed production when he's hot, with some adjustments, etc.? How much do you weigh what you could get from the player with how it ended in Philadelphia with the stuff off the field? How do you weigh
this is where if I was another GM looking for a right-handed bat with some production and a veteran guy, where this would require a flight to his home, a discussion with him, a face-to-face, and a very, very candid discussion about what happened, why, knowing about much of the things that happened, but why, and whether this is the right fit for my team. Some teams can, don't get affected by guys like this, even if he has a little bit of an edge or whatever. You don't totally like the makeup. But I mean, listen, was never afraid to, go and take a chance on somebody like this, especially who is going to probably be pretty motivated to show the world that he's a better player than he has been the last couple of years.
Right. Motivated to show the Phillies, motivated to get another contract.
Correct.
And stay in baseball. I mean, I could see somebody rolling the dice on him who has a need, maybe Padres. Trying to think who else. But if it doesn't work out, you release him. You're on the hook for, $750,000.
Yeah, and you're not taking a real big chance on the guy, obviously, because you're paying him the minimum. But no harm, no foul by giving him an opportunity. But I think it would precipitate a very, very candid conversation.
For sure. And, it's going to be fun to watch this season wherever he lands. People are going to be looking at that box score every night going, what did Nick do? What did Adolis Garcia do? Not it's not necessarily
no doubt.
Garcia,
no
but,
doubt.
every fan is going to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, this front off, they're rolling the dice on Garcia, coming off of 2 down years. They missed on Max Kepler last year, so I mean, there's some, they need one of these guys and one of your guys to hit, and that's the big.
What
big,
did we think of the letter? I liked the letter. I liked that he drew like a log cabin on the letter.
Not too many people use cursive anymore or write with that. A lot of people type it all out.
That's true. I mean, Nick,
I think the letter was candid, but not totally candid.
Yeah, it was a nice,
I don't think we got the whole story there.
And I wonder if the Presidente was the good stuff that you get in the Dominican or the knockoff stuff that they sell here in the States.
You think it's a knockoff they sell in the States, huh?
Well, it's not the same quality as you get in the DR.
It's kind of like
cold. They're coming out of that cold ice water when you drop off into Santo Domingo.
It's kind of like when you get a Guinness in Dublin. It tastes different than in the United States. Is that what you're saying, Jim?
It's I've always heard it. I've had it in the DR and I've had it here, and it does have a little difference.
I have a bunch of Presidentes in my refrigerator right now.
Oh, you should go crack one in honor of Nick.
I don't think I'm going to do that, James. On my birthday, I'm not going to do that.
Oh, that's right.
That's right. Yeah, this is what we'll say this about Ruben. It's Thursday night. We've been recording this. It is his birthday, and he's taking the time to chat with us. So happy birthday, Ruben.
Thanks, guys.
Look at you.
I'm getting older.
Yes.
Better than the alternative.
What else is happening down there, Todd? Give us a quick update before Ruben has to go put his party hat on.
Well, today was actually a real short day. They had like a bunch of guys throw before the first official workout on Tuesday. They had a ton of guys throw on Tuesday. Had a few guys throw on Wednesday. So it was actually a very short, quick day. Guys were in and out. Bryson Stott was in camp today. He got on the half field. And guess who greeted him very warmly? Bobby Dickerson and Larry Boa. They were right there. And it took about less than a second for them to start jumping on Bryson Stott.
Talking smack.
Giving him a hard time.
The Fungo fraternity.
I said to Bryson, I go,
that's kind of the time of the spring. I love watching them work out before.
So fun. And Bryson's a great guy, as you guys know. And I said to Bryson, I go, did you miss Bobby? And he goes, no. This is after as Bobby's just riding him already, So of course they work well together, and everybody does like Bobby and the work that he does there. So it was, you get guys are slowly starting to trickle in. So next few days we'll see Bryce and Trey show up and whatnot. Schwarber's here looking jacked. He's ready to rock and roll. So, and the weather was nice today, and the sun was out.
Let's go warm it up for me. I'm coming in a week.
There we go. I'm looking forward to it. Hope to see both of you guys very soon down in Clearwater. Get that hoodie off, Jim. You got to get the lightweight Philly show hoodie.
Lightweight. We go lightweight.
Come on.
Wait to see the pipes in my short sleeve shirt.
Oh God, you have unbelievable guns.
I cannot wait. Bring that mesh T-shirt down, Jim.
Don't forget your thong.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. We will be back soon.
All right.
Soon.
Great talking to you. Smell you later.
Smell you, Jim.
The Philly Show is brought to you by the Foul Territory Network. Subscribe to The Philly Show on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.